Great. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start with the presentation. And today, SSI Consulting and Uninet are presenting a webinar on DCAA compliant time expense, reporting, and cost accounting. And we're focusing this on the needs of government contractors. Obviously, a lot of businesses do collect time and expense and their business based on projects. We'll go to the next slide. So our agenda today is to tell you a little bit about our company, and spend most of the time showing you the Uninet project management software solution, then the Microsoft Dynamics SL DCAA compliant accounting solution. We'll have a wrap up after about 50 minutes, and we'll entertain your questions at the end. So the next slide.
My name is Chris Craig. I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations at Uninet, and Bill and I are doing presentation in conjunction with each other, so we'll be passing back and forth with each other. But just want to give you an overview of kind of the broad features that DCAA looks for in an accounting system and a project management system. So several parties that we've worked with, and we have over 900 customers now that use software, and identified these bullet points as kind of the high-level 30,000-foot view, if you will, of the DCAA features. So you have to have an accounting system that's in accordance with GAAP. It's kind of just basic blocking and tackling. In the accounting system, you have to segregate the costs and the indirect costs. So when you talk about direct costs, you have labor and ODCs, but then with indirect costs, you could have fringe. An example of fringe would be your benefits, your 4K, your vacation. Overhead would be another indirect cost. That could be your off-rent, for example, and G&A, your finance team, your admin team. Allocation and accumulation of direct by contract, so that's where you're logging labor, logging ODCs against the various contracts and projects and tasks and subtasks. A consistent method for allocating indirect costs. DCAA will accept different methods, but the one thing they want to make sure is they have documented policies and procedures, and you're consistent with those policies and procedures. So software is not going to make a company DCAA compliant. It's really the combination of software, policies, and procedures with training that's all part of a DCAA compliant system. Quick timekeeping systems, and we're going to get into the timekeeping in detail when I get into the demo. That's kind of the first thing DCAA looks at is how are people logging their time? Are they doing it on a daily basis? Are they charging time into the future? Are they put in reasons for changing their timesheet? That kind of thing. Who charged to what in the workforce authorization? A distribution that charges direct and indirect labor to the appropriate cost objectives. It's straightforward. The interim indirect rates, so calculating the provisional and the actual rates and looking at both rates. You can unallowable costs, which is pretty straightforward. And then financial information required by the contract clauses to support progress payments. A bit of background on Uninet as a company. We started in 1988 as an IT services firm or a consulting firm, and then in 1998 the management team re-engineered the company. We went from a services consulting-based company to a software product-based company, strictly focusing on the development of this software package. Our current model, we've been in production for over 14 years now, headquartered in Dulles, Virginia, and have satellite offices kind of scattered throughout the United States: Florida, California, Michigan, Texas, New England, Ohio. Over 100 customers, 65% are the government contractors. So we do have a specific focus on that area. We have both a cloud model or an on-demand model whereby we host the software for our customers, and to offer an on-premise model where they actually install and run the software on their own servers. Both models are web-based or browser-based. It's just whether to have the software hosted for them or running it internally on their own servers. The functionality is exactly the same. A very affordable and for smaller organizations that allows them kind of a classroom training environment for getting up and running and configured correctly. And we also have a professional services team that works with all of our customers on one basis to help them configure Uninet to their specific business rules, implement software, train people on how to use the software, integrate the software with existing systems.
Thanks, Chris. So, and my name is Bill Ayton. I'm president of SSI Consulting, if I didn't say that to start with. Anyway, SSI Consulting has been in business for 30 years, starting next year. And we're a gold Microsoft partner with an ERP competency, which basically means that we have a lot of people that are controllers, CPAs, CFOs, and so our people have actually done the jobs that we're actually helping our customers accomplish. We offer Microsoft solutions, SL and GP. They used to be known as Solomon and Great Plains. A lot of people still remember them that way. Founded in 1983, we have offices in McLean, Virginia, and Columbia, Maryland, both on-premise solutions and cloud solutions. Just as Chris was talking about Uninet, we have customers that are putting their systems in the cloud. About half of our new customers are doing that, and quite a few of our existing customers are converting to the cloud. We were Microsoft Partner of the Year for the Mid-Atlantic region a couple of years back, so we're very proud of getting that award. And also won some other awards, the VAR 100 Award from Accounting Technology Magazine and the Technology Pacesetter Award. Move the slide.
Okay, this view gives an overview of the two perspectives with one goal, we like to call it. We often find that project managers and accounting, they have the same goal. They want to make the company as productive as possible, as profitable as possible, but they really focus on two different areas. So with project managers, real-time status is important because they want to see the impact of how people are tracking against their project in real time. So it saves the data on the timesheet. The manager doesn't want to wait 2 weeks or twice a month for accounting to run them a report on how that's affecting their budget. Say, okay, in real time, show me how we're progressing against the budget. I don't want to blow through my budget. I don't want to blow through my budget. I want to see the impact in real time. It allows for budgeting and forecasting where you can actually plan out into the future. Who's overbooked, who's underbooked, when people become available. You can plan out your labor. You can plan your dollars. You can plan out your indirect dollars. So you can almost do a probability forecast or a revenue forecast. Resource availability, I talked a little bit about that. You can schedule based on people's availability, their skill set. You can define skills with people. Security clearance, Arabic linguist, Java programmer, whatever skills you want, and then you can look at the availability. Project profitability, or our margins on various projects or various tasks or subtasks underneath those projects. And then earned value management. Uninet is an ANSI compliant earned value management tool. It does meet the 32 criteria for earned value management, where not only are you looking at actual versus budget, but you're taking into account percent complete. And based on the percent complete, you're basically saying if we continue at our current rates, how much we're expected to finish either under or over budget. So a lot of customers look at that weekly or bi-weekly basis at their management team meetings, versus whether or not they have to comply with the EVA standards. Will you talk about the accounting side?
So the financial team organization has a little bit of a different agenda. Again, they're all focused on projects, but the financial team is focused on DCAA compliance, just on getting the billing out the door and collecting revenue and producing cash for the company. They're focused on pricing. What should provisional rates be? What were the actual rates that the company encountered? On overall corporate profitability, how is the company as a total doing? And that'd be a mixture of government contracting and commercial, or maybe all government contracting. And also looking at indirect costs, all of those costs that aren't directly charged to a project, but be tracked and need to be measured and need to be allocated. And everybody's focus is on time, on budget projects, and satisfied customers, but it's a little bit of a different perspective. So that's the point we wanted to make here.
This slide just sort of illustrates what we just talked about. We have UNET on the left-hand side and Dynamics SL on the right-hand side, and on UNET, that's where the PMs kind of live and breathe and operate. Where you can budget and forecast out into the future, budgeting, resource management as far as planning people and allocated different projects and tasks into the future, time and expense reporting, project reporting, a variety of metrics around projects. So that's kind of the operational tool for your employees, your managers, your operational managers to see the data. Dynamics SL would still be your system of record. So you want to talk about the right-hand side again?
Sure. So the Dynamics SL would be the official accounting system, producing financial statements, etc. Your accounting backbone. So when you're when you're talking about going after a government contract, you have to discuss what accounting solution you're using and so on. Where pools and allocations are measured, pools of indirect costs, and then allocating those costs to projects. It's set up contracts where we track the billing and where we do financial reporting and financial statements.
Okay, so now we're going to dig a little deeper into the UNINET software. This is a graphic of what UNINET does. I've sort of talked about this already, but just a full picture of what we do. We start in the forecast area where you can look out into the future and you can plan people based on their availability, their skill set. You can answer questions like who's overbooked or who's underbooked, or when do people become available, when do people with specific skills become available. Looking into the future, what is the revenue forecast, what is the cost forecast. You scenario planning, where you would have an initial budget. You could have a reforecast every quarter or every 6 months or however often you want to do that. Then your employees can log in and they can log their time and expenses against different projects in compliance with the DCAA rules and the federal per diems for the CONUS and OCONUS locations. Management can approve that information, and more importantly, management can run a variety of reports on that information. Real-time reports on project status, comparing actual to budgeted numbers, EVM reports, project costing reports, utilization reports for employees, project profitability or performance reports, etc. So it's really for mixed type organizations where you have multiple people working on multiple projects. I'm into the demonstration now, and I'm going to talk about the budgeting and forecasting, the time and expense reporting, and project management and reporting. So I'll escape out of here. And I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because we have a limited amount of time here, but each person in the system has a unique ID and password, which basically prevents any unauthorized access to the system. When one authenticates into UNINET, it will identify who they are, and then based on their user privileges or their roles, it typically generates this dashboard type view. These are the charts that this person has chosen to see. These reports that has chosen to run most frequently. So each person can have their own dashboard based on what they've chosen to see and what they're allowed to see. It's a role-based system, meaning you can limit who can view information versus who can edit information, who has access to which customers, which projects, which departments, which employees, etc. So the forecasting area, that's you can look at something like this, and you look out into the future. This is showing me for the next X periods, or in 12 weeks. The columns can be days, weeks, months, quarters. It can be 165 columns. But how are my people planned to work? Who's overbooked in red, or who's underbooked in yellow, or when do people become available? You can run this for certain types of people. So, for example, if I wanted to say, show me my capacity for programmers, and to me week over week, show it to me month over month, and to me for 9 months. And if I have to change the colors, I could do that here. So if I define the criteria of all these reports, I can then save that criteria. I name it here, and then add it to my dashboards. And that's always there for me. Or have 10 or 20 reports you want to share out to people. You can build them once and then share them out. That's basically how the reporting works. But for Java programmers, these are my Java programmers and how they're currently planned to work. So I can see that Dave is immediately available or Al is immediately available. If I want to say, why is Bob 125% booked, I click on his name and it shows me what he's booked on to make up the 125%. You can take into account ability percentages for forecasting. So you can put in your opportunities or your proposals in here. You'll note right now Bob is 125% booked. If I go back to the criteria and use the probability percentage in the calculation, Bob is only 63% booked. So why is he only 63% booked? If I click on his name, it's this thing is only 25% likely to happen, and this thing is only 50% likely to happen. So in a weighted forecast or kind of an expected value calculation based on the probability percentage. So in the matrix world, you could either show the data person by project. This Chris is planned on, this is everything Mike is planned on, this is everything Paula is planned on, or I can flip the data around or invert the data like a pivot table concept in Excel. So showing it by person by project, I could flip it around and show it by project by person. This one on data warehouse, this is everyone on PS upgrade. The cell can either be hours, dollars, or what we call FTEs, full-time equivalents. So bodies, do we have planned? To change this report, again, I would just go back to criteria. I'd say show me FTEs as opposed to dollars. And they don't show me people, but show me labor categories. And this is how it looks like. So all the reports copied to Excel. As if you want to manipulate them further, each cell comes in formatted correctly. That's kind of a forecasting view. Now this is actually taking into account actuals and plans on the same screen. So kind of a periodic job summary report. When your actual labor, the actuals are denoted by an asterisk, plans are denoted by a plus. Or today's date. Today's date is October 5th. So October has actuals and it has plans in it. And then today's date, it's just planned. So this is my planned labor, planned ODCs, and then my planned indirect costs for fringe, overhead, G&A. I can see my expected profit percentage here that I've planned to do. I compare that with my budget. So budget, my actuals gives me my backlog, and then minus my actuals minus my plans gives me my unallocated budget. So a really commonly run report by project managers because they want to look at what they've done but also what they're planning to do. Okay. Now I'm going to log out as the project manager for a second, and I'm going to log in as the end user. The end user has very limited functionality as far as what they can and cannot do. So basically their primary responsibility is to put in timesheets and put in expense reports. So timesheet, I can also do a leave request if you want to request paid time off into the future, like vacation or jury duty or whatever. This example timesheet, this is a weekly timesheet. You can do weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, monthly. You can start on any day of the week you want. It doesn't have to start on a Sunday. So just working left to right, this is basically showing me my workforce authorization, everything that I'm authorized to charge to. Only seeing the projects in this list that I'm allowed to charge to. Errors, and also to make it easier for the employee to use. Restrict this list based on a date range or a period of performance, as well as a budgeted number of hours. So if you really wanted to be granular about it, you could say, Matt, you can charge to Space Station from October 21st to November 7th, and prevent him from charging outside that date range or prevent him from charging the 21st hour. So in projects, you can have tasks, and you can have any number and level of tasks and subtasks, and each project has its own task plan associated with it. All of the restrictions I mentioned at the project level can also be applied at the task level. I'm only showing you 2 columns. You can get to 6 columns depending on how complex you want to make the entry for your end users. Examples of other columns could be location, where the work being performed. Another would be labor category, what fund are they acting as. Another example could be pay code, is it regular time, overtime, double time. An example could be type of work. Different ways you can, different columns there. Of time, you can put in a duration of hours, and then in the comments area you can say how you spent your time. So each cell can have its own sort of preformed comment associated with it. Force them to put in comments on a project basis. So if I put in 1 hour here and 1 hour here, when I click save, it's going to tell me I'm not able to submit this timesheet because PS Upgrade requires comments. So if I go over here and put a comment for save, that error message will go away. Also, per DCAA, you're not supposed to charge time into the future. So you can put in 8 hours of vacation tomorrow, but if I charge to a government code tomorrow, it's not going to let me do that because it doesn't want you charging time into the future. I'll go back and make changes. If I go back to Tuesday and try to change these 4 hours or the hours to 6 hours, you have to put in a reason as to why I made the change, and stamps it with who did it, what they did, when they did it. So when the audits come in, there's a change history report that they can use a predefined list, or you can put in your own reason here. With the automatic email reminders that will ping the delinquent users whenever and however often you like. So to 5 p.m. tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Those contain a hyperlink that brings the employees directly to their timesheet. You can also ping the managers of the delinquent users with a list of all their delinquents. The things I want to stress here, one, is very intuitive. It's very easy to use. Everyone on the call could probably start putting in time right now. And two, as the employee clicks on save, it's immediately available for management for reporting purposes. So it's all live data. It's all real-time data. I would the approval process too. This is an expense report. So we have a concept of an expense report and an expense request. The request is basically for pre-travel authorization approval for expenses that have yet to be incurred. So to go to a conference and stay in a hotel, you could do that. You can see the status of all your expense reports directly from your dashboard, where they are in the approval process. Go into an individual expense report. The expense report that I'm charging to this project, and we do the per diems in here, all the CONUS and OCONUS rates. So basically you tell Uninet when you were there, and tells you the appropriate rate, and over the allowed amount, because for example it's the only hotel available, calculate the overage or the unallowable for you and put it on a separate line. Variety of expense types that you can charge against, and you can limit who can charge to which expense types and which projects go with which expense types. You can go attach receipts. If you want to have them scan in receipts, they can attach receipts here. With the iOS 6 on the whole iPad or phone, you can actually take an image you've snapped directly with your iPad and then attach directly here if you're doing it through that browser. Import from credit cards. If you have a company credit card, you can bring in credit card transactions. So get into some of the bells and whistles here, but on an end user perspective, you can run a variety of reports. I wanted to look at my personal utilization. Being asked to hit certain utilization targets, I can see how I'm progressing against those targets. If I see how much vacation I will have, what I've accrued and what I've used, and then what I'm going to accrue into the future. So I want to take vacation in December, I'll have 31 hours available or accrued by December to take vacation. To do, if I want to see what my workforce authorization is, that's part of DCAA is having a workforce authorization as far as who can charge to what. I what I've been authorized to charge to, when authorized to charge to it, how much I'm authorized to charge, etc. I get to my time and expense policies and procedures over here. So DCAA compliance is not just about the software, it's about the process by which you utilize the software. So I'm linking the employees to the policies and procedures. I can do that over here. Okay, logging out, logging as a manager. A manager could also do timesheets and expense reports. They have more options available to them. This approval queue, these are all my primary approvals. Brent submits their timesheet or their leave request or their expense report to me. So here I go in, I review what was charged, and I can either approve it or disapprove it. If I disapprove it, per DCAA, it forces you to put in a reason as to why it was disapproved, and it's an email back to the employee telling them it was disapproved, logs in the audit trail, and the employee can then the timesheet. Concept of manager approval and project manager approval in UNINET. The manager sees the entire timesheet or the entire expense report of anyone that submits to their group, which is required for DCAA purposes. The project manager approves more on a line item basis, so they only see the time or expense charged to their specific project and turn that on or off on a project-by-project basis. There's pros and cons to using that. Pros being it enforces that Charlie would review the charges on his project. The cons being it's just another step in the process to get the timesheet to the locked status where it's ready to be sent on to SL. The timesheet status report, this is showing you the status of everyone's timesheet in the system, where it is in the approval process. So I say, who are my 5 delinquent users? I can click on this piece of the pie, and it shows me who those delinquent people are. I could also run a variety of reports. I could look at utilization across all employees. So this is showing me how, quote-unquote, utilized my team has been. I could look at actual versus budget. If I want to track against the budgeted amount, I can see how I'm progressing against that budget in time. And then I can also set alerts to ping me when certain thresholds are hit. So I'm going to run that previous report. Just ping me when we hit 75% of the budget. It will ping you with an email, and it will show up in your dashboard when you log into the system. Run a JSR, a summary report, showing me, cost. This is my labor, the ODCs. These are my indirects. Now, the particular person is cost rate manager. So although they can see the $237,000 of labor on this job, they can't drill into that $237,000. So they see who charged to make up that number. I log out and I log back in as someone who's a cost rate manager. This could run the same JSR, the same 237. They could drill into it, charged and how much they charged and what made up that 237. So one final comment before I turn it back over to Bill. There's a ton of reports in here that'll query the data by customer, by project, by department, by employee, over the date range in a variety of different layouts. And once you define the layouts you choose to run most frequently, you can send them over here to your dashboard. I'll the PowerPoint and switch to you.
You want to make me the presenter, or you want to? So going to make me the presenter, or are you going to keep?
I made you the presenter.
Got it. Okay. I just need to take over your screen and keyboard, I think.
Oh, sorry. You have to pass the presenter back to me then.
Okay. Is that back to you?
Yep. Just trying to figure out how to do this.
There's a button that says give keyboard and mouse. Right next to that change presenter button.
Yeah, just hit that. Is that working for you or no? Otherwise, just click through it.
Good. So now we're going to talk about the Dynamics SL side of the equation, and we're getting over into the accounting arena for the company. just to give you a little background on Dynamics SL, the product started out in the early 80s as a private company. In 2000, they were purchased by Microsoft, and Microsoft has since enhanced the product quite a bit and continues to enhance it, and has a roadmap all the way out to 2017 for future work. So Dynamics SL is a great solution for organizations that have professional services as their primary delivery, operational companies, field service companies, and government contractors. So we're going to, if I can change slides here. This is the initial sign on the screen for Dynamics SL, and a couple of things I wanted to point out here are, number one, you've got graphics in the middle of the screen, and these are user-definable. So depending on who the user is, they'll reminders about projects or payables or receivables, and that would depend on their role. So the CEO might have one set of key indicators, perhaps around cash and total sales, total billing, and an accounts payable person would just focus on the accounts payable icons. In the lower left-hand corner, you can see that there are some system trays that allow you to select different groups of modules, and then that would be more specific information about those modules. So it's a little bit of the look and feel of Microsoft Outlook, and many companies use Outlook and Exchange, and so already a little bit intuitive about how this might work out. Microsoft invests $8 billion a year in R&D, and they try to leverage that across all of their products. So the last thing to notice is in the upper right-hand corner, there's a quick list of active projects in this case, but there could be many other lists of quick items, and you can click on those items and jump into that particular project, for instance. And notice that there's a blue button that says Contoso, and so the point to make there is that SL allows you to do accounting for multiple corporate entities. It has automated do to and do from features that allow it to track automatically without you having to go into both companies and set up the corresponding do to, do from. So of course, one of the major drivers of any accounting solution is the chart of accounts, and an additional thing in SL that we call sub-accounts, which are basically departments, divisions, regions, territories, etc. So you can see in this case, we've designed a chart of accounts which uses all the 5,000 series account numbers to collect direct costs, 6,000 collect fringes, 6,000 collect overhead, and 8,000 collect G&A. And you remember when Chris was talking at the very beginning that one of the requirements of DCAA is to segregate your direct and your indirect costs. Of course, in the accounting solution, the way that's accomplished is through using different account numbers. But if you're smart about the numbering of your account numbers, then the pulling data can be facilitated later on. So this is one of the things that we share with a customer when we're going through the design stage. We're helping you figure out what reporting you're going to have to do, and then to share with you what other customers have done which has accomplished that goal. The system includes a series of government contractor-specific reports. So if you're in government contracting, you know that there are unique needs because you're in that arena. These reports are very similar to reports that, if you've ever worked with Deltek or other government contractor solutions, there are some reports that people have gotten used to seeing, some formats. The same reports are included in the SL system. Job summary report, people often refer to that as the JSR, and labor hours and cost details, other direct costs, etc. And you may have seen some of this same reporting over on the Uninet side. So you do have some overlap there. A project manager on the Uninet side is able to pull some of the same information. But this is the official report based on the actual accounting data. These two systems are sharing data back and forth so they're able to produce those reports. Go to the next slide. One of the things that a government contractor is charged with is coming up with a provisional overhead rate that's to be applied to contracts, and then to look later in the year and see how did that actually work out, how good was our initial guess, and if there's a difference between those two, there's an opportunity to collect additional revenue. Perhaps you've overcharged, hopefully not, but it's always something that people are looking at. This particular report, it shows rows would be the project, and you can see the target, actual, and over/under for fringe, overhead, and G&A with a grand total on the right-hand side. So you look through here and you can see by project how your target rates and your actual rates fell. And then in the lower right-hand corner, it's a little to read, but the first line is FB, so fringe benefits. And our target rate was 19%, and our actual results were 17.26%. And then overhead and G&A come underneath that for the company as a total, or in this case for this report, for these particular projects. We could have selected a subset of projects, or we could have looked at all projects during the year. You can run this report pretty much any time you want to, so you can track how that's going and track over and under variance throughout the year. One of the things that government contractors are required to do in order to get paid is you have to produce your invoice in a certain exact format. And if you don't have that format designed exactly correct, then your invoice is rejected, and you have to correct it and then send it back, and then eventually, hopefully then later, your firm's actually paid. So one of the things that Excel allows you to do is to design the contract formats, invoice formats by contract type, and then assign that format to a project. So if we print 10 bills, they might come out of the system in 10 different formats. That's automatically tracked and automatically managed by the system. So good examples are cost plus fixed fee formats, firm fixed price formats, time and material formats. But you can have an unlimited number of formats. It happens that you can do billing in Uninet, or you can do billing in SL. So it just depends on which makes the most sense. Some companies like their project managers doing the billing, and some companies prefer the accounting department to do the billing. But that's an example of where both products have the capability of solving that need, and you would just decide where you wanted to actually assign that responsibility. Government contractors also sell product. And this is a little bit of a unique situation where we have professional services, but we also have products that are sold. And so a good example would be an IT solutions firm that sells networks and hubs and other equipment, servers, etc., to a government agency, and then provides the service to deploy those items as a project, as a professional services piece of the project. There aren't many accounting solutions which handle both product and professional services, but Excel does. So set up a project and put inventory into the project, charge it that way, or you can bill for inventory to a customer and have a project, a separate project, which does the professional services. But a number of customers who looked and looked and looked and finally look at SL, and it provides a really nice solution when doing both. One of the things that we have to do in the accounting department is prepare financial statements. These would be financial statements for the company. They could be by project, but oftentimes, well, we definitely have to have financial reporting for the company as a whole. And Microsoft Dynamics SL, as well as their other products, use a product called Management Reporter. Management Reporter allows you to create, design your financial statements any way you want them to look. So in window here, we've got rows that show sales and sales returns, sales discounts just to start off, and has columns for actual, budget, and variance. But the rows could be different for different reports. The columns certainly could be different for different reports. Some companies prefer show me this month actual versus budget, show me year date actual versus budget. Some companies want to compare this month with this month last year, or year to date with year to date last year. So you can have an unlimited series of columns. In the left-hand corner, there's something called a reporting tree, and the reporting tree looks a little bit like a hierarchical design of the company. So we have at the top the summary of all the units. We've got corporate units, which would be like a central department at corporate headquarters. Got divisions for Denver and San Francisco, so we're going to locations at that point. Underneath Denver, we've got a sales department and a service department. And then underneath sales, we've got retail and wholesale. So you can see we've got a whole bunch of different areas we could drill into. And actually select one of those branches, or all the way out to the smallest, lowest level, and produce a financial statement just for that division, just for that Denver wholesale department, and that to a particular manager who is in charge of that department. So when you generate financial statements, you can actually set up a distribution list that assign portions of the tree, and it just all automatically gets emailed to people. One of the things that we can do is we can personalize the financial statements with images and logos, then page numbering and page breaks. That's a very simple thing to add. We can have financial logic. So we might take a whole group of accounts and add them together and call that travel, but tracking it at a much more detailed level: car rental, hotel, airlines, etc. But we necessarily want to show that in a high-level financial statement. So we can set up some financial logic. And easy sharing and collaboration. We can send out to people by email, and we can also embed detail in the report. So if someone had a question about salary and wages, they could double-click on that line, and it would actually explode then to the next level, perhaps by department, and then drill again down to individual transactions. So obviously accounting might be concerned with anything which would reveal the individual salary of a person, but they might want to send it out with a certain high-level department cost. So let me go to the next slide. So to wrap up, what we've shown you is a solution that provides real-time, forward-looking project views anchored in a compliant accounting backbone that accommodates various contract types and delivers information to accountants and project managers at the level they need when they need it. The other main point here is that this combination of solutions, Uninet and Dynamics SL, meet the needs of the two big areas of a professional services from a contractor firm, and it would be accounting, which is critical that the DCAA approve our accounting solution because we want to get paid and keep our money and not have it pulled back by an audit. And then secondly, the project managers who need to execute the projects and get the job done. And we're sharing that information of people and projects and costs together. So that's the unique solution, is giving your project managers a solution and your accountants a solution to toward profitability and performance. So, excuse me, this final slide has our contact information on it. And what we'd like to do at the end here is to answer any questions. So I guess we've got a question in the queue, and we'll answer that. Let's see here. Question.
Want me to read that to you, Bill?
Great.
Okay. Does a small business need to purchase both Uninet and Dynamics to be DCAA compliant?
Great question. So, Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I guess my first initial reaction is no, you don't. You don't purchase anything to be DCAA compliant. You can run Excel spreadsheets and all in starting off. So that's perfectly acceptable. Now, it's easier to have a system enable a client to be DCAA compliant. We've tried to show in this brief time software some of the features around DCAA compliance. Direct question, no, you don't need a system to be DCAA compliant. The NetL solution facilitates DCAA compliance.
Right, and the other thing that we find is that a company typically knows which area is more critical to them. So some companies actually say that their project managers are where they're feeling the most pain, and that they actually start with Internet as the first system that they get. And some companies say, I want to get a backbone accounting in place, and then once that's done, I will layer on top of that the project manager's solution. So that's another piece. Sometimes it's sometimes people will pick one area to start in, and it's just natural for the company. You'll kind of say, yeah, this is the one that I need. Now, obviously, if you have the resources, both solutions, we actually have many projects going right now where companies are actually implementing both solutions in a coordinated way. So you don't have to have, so I think that's a good answer. We can unmute the phones now and see if there are any other questions before we end for the day. Beth, unmute, and we'll, if anybody has any verbal questions?
You should be unmuted now.
Okay. Anybody had anything come up while we were talking? We'd be happy to address that now. Everybody's unmuted, and you should be able to just speak your question. Kind of feels like a Friday. It's only Thursday, but it kind of feels like a Friday to me.
Bill, this is Rob Williams. I'll go ahead and ask one here. I noticed that Dynamics has several different products out there. The SL is one, and I forget what the others are called. But is the SL the only one that's designed for government contractors? Is that why you are presenting that product?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Microsoft actually has 4 solutions, and SL is the solution that they have identified to put the government contractor capability, the most government contractor capability into. In order to use the other accounting products, you actually need to add a third-party product. So it's not that you couldn't use GP, for instance, if you were a government contractor, but you would need to add a third-party product to get the project accounting solution. Whereas with SL, it's just in the product from Microsoft, so you're dealing, everything is, I think, more coordinated and more planned to work together.
SL also the timekeeping.
Yes, so SL does have a timekeeping system. We like to describe it as good, and Uninet as better. And just a couple of differences. Uninet has DM, so that's tracked. It does a great job of dealing with multi-currency, so that sometimes is a critical item for people, and has a number of other things too. But yes, SL does have time and expense, and you can think of it as a basic time and expense, and it is DCAA compliant. We usually encourage people to look at both, and when they do, they prefer the Uninet time and expense. We have plenty of clients using SL for that purpose. Good question. Sometimes that does confuse people that there are multiple accounting solutions from Microsoft, and why should I look at SL? And a great reason, I don't know if you remember this I showed you that showed the government contractor reports. That's unique to SL, so Microsoft is actually delivering you that government contractor reporting package, and it's only in the SL product line that Microsoft provides that.
Thanks.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions?
Maybe time left, we could just go around the call and ask everyone just real briefly, did this meet your expectations? Is this what you were looking for? Is there anything else you'd like to see in future webinars?
Yeah.
I have the list of attendees in front of me, so I can't really call on people, but if you have any suggestions, please let us know.
I think a lot of people didn't have microphones.
And this is Rob Williams again. I think it does, but you know this is Rob Williams?
Yeah.
The only thing when I'm out there, and I've been in the government space for a while now, is might be beneficial to other government contractors when we're out here starting to shop around a little bit. If we're, potentially, I would assume that most people will start with QuickBooks or Peachtree and then move to something. Obviously, you're going to have a lot of other competitors, and if you had a compare contrast slide there that compared you with